Laudetur Jesus Christus, praised be Jesus Christ, and welcome to this live broadcast of the Mass of Inauguration of Pope Leo XIV. We're coming live to you today on Sunday, May 18th, here in Rome. This is the fifth Sunday of Easter, and we gather in prayerful unity here in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. My name is Devin Watkins.
And I am Bonga Majola, and will be providing the commentary and translation for this celebration.
And we offer a warm welcome to all of you who are joining us for this solemn event. As we go live, we see the Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, making his way in the Pope Mobile down the Via della Conciliazione that runs between the St. Peter's Square and the Tiber River, the Castel Sant'Angelo. And some of you may be joining us through our various Vatican media channels, including the Vatican News app, the Radio Vaticana app, or our Facebook Live feed. And we welcome all of our friends from the Deaf Catholic Youth Initiative for the Americas, DCYIA. Please visit our Vatican News YouTube channel to find translation in American Sign Language, or ASL.
As you would remember, Pope Francis passed away peacefully on Easter Monday, April 21st at 7:35 a.m. in his residence at the Casa Santa Marta here at the Vatican. Just the day before, on Easter Sunday, he appeared on the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica to give his Easter Urbi et Orbi blessing to the Church and to the world. He also rode through St. Peter's Square in the Pope Mobile, warmly greeting the faithful, something he loved doing during his 12 years as Pope. His funeral mass was held in St. Peter's Square on Saturday, April 26. Afterwards, his body was taken to its final resting place at the Basilica of St. Mary Major, as he had requested. And after Pope Francis passed away, the cardinals gathered in conclave to choose his successor. On May 8th, Cardinal Prevost was elected as the 267th successor of St. Peter, becoming the new Bishop of Rome, and he chose the name Leo XIV.
Not even the beginning of his power as Pope. The moment he accepted the Cardinal's nomination in the conclave and swore to fulfill the ministry of Peter, he obtained full personal and plenipotentiary power over the Catholic Church, following taking up his role as the Vicar of Christ on earth. And this Mass marks the inauguration, the beginning of that Petrine ministry.
Of course, we see the Holy Father being accompanied. He's coming back now down Via della Conciliazione, back into the square, greeted by the faithful. I think it's the first time we see him on the Papal Mobile.
Roaming among the faithful, greeting the faithful, and this also, we may note, it seems like a new Pope Mobile. We know that Pope Francis had, I believe, 4 Pope Mobiles, all of which are being donated to charity. One was destined for Gaza, Caritas Sweden, I believe, took that Pope Mobile and of Pope Leo XIV. We're coming live to you today on Sunday, May May 18th, here in Rome. This is the 5th Sunday of Easter, and we gather in prayerful unity here in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. My name is Devin Watkins.
And I am Bonga Majola, and will be providing the commentary and translation for this celebration.
And we offer a warm welcome to all of you who are joining us for this solemn event. As we go live, we see the Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, making his way in the Pope Mobile down the Via della Conciliazione that runs between the St. Peter's Square and the Tiber River, the Castel Sant'Angelo. And some of you may be joining us through our various Vatican media channels, including the Vatican News app, the Radio Vatican app, or our Facebook Live feed. And we welcome all of our friends from the Deaf Catholic Youth Initiative for the Americas, DCYIA. Please visit our Vatican News YouTube channel to find translation in American Sign Language, or ASL.
As you would remember, Pope Francis passed away peacefully on Easter Monday, April 21st at 7:35 a.m. in his residence at the Casa Santa Marta here at the Vatican. Just the day before, on Easter Sunday, he appeared on the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica to give his Easter Urbi et Orbi blessing to the Church and to the world. He also rode through St. Peter's Square in the Pope Mobile, warmly greeting the faithful, something he loved doing during his 12 years as Pope. His funeral mass was held in St. Peter's Square on Saturday, April 26, after taken to its final resting place at the Basilica of St. Mary Major, as he had requested. And after Pope Francis passed away, the cardinals gathered in conclave to choose his successor. On May 8th, Cardinal Prevost was elected as the 267th successor of St. Peter, becoming the new Bishop of Rome, and he chose the name Leo XIV.
And today we gather for the solemn Eucharistic celebration for the inauguration of Pope Leo XIV's pontificate, the 267th Pope. This is a liturgical event, will mark the official beginning of his ministry as the successor of Peter and Bishop of Rome. Now, we note that this is the inauguration Mass, but not his first Mass, not his inaugural Mass, and it's not even the beginning of his power as Pope. The moment he accepted the Cardinal's nomination in the conclave and swore to fulfill the ministry of Peter, he obtained full personal and plenipotentiary power over the Catholic Church, following as the taking up his role as the Vicar of Christ on earth. And this Mass marks the inauguration, the beginning of that Petrine ministry.
Of course, we see the Holy Father being accompanied. He's coming back now down Via della Conciliazione, back into the square, greeted by the faithful. I think it's the first time we see him on the Papamobile.
Yes, I believe so. This last Sunday, his first Regina Caeli was at noon on Sunday of last week, and he just appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, and this is the first time that he is making his way in the Popemobile and roaming among the faithful, greeting the faithful. And this also, we may note, it seems like a new Popemobile. We know that Pope Francis had, I believe, 4 Popemobiles, all of which are being donated to charity. One was destined for Gaza, Caritas Sweden, I believe, took that Popemobile and fitted it out as a way to serve those who are in need in Gaza. We know that any place in war was near to Pope Francis's heart. He frequently appealed for peace throughout the world, especially, as he said, in martyred Ukraine and in Gaza, in the Holy Land, and in every place that sees war. And so among his final wishes was that his earthly belongings, few though they may be personally, Pope Francis gave one of his Popemobiles to serve the people in war-torn Gaza. The Via della Conciliazione has been filled since April 21st, the day that Pope Francis died, and was prepared for the funeral mass, and it's been set up to receive the crowds of faithful and pilgrims who have come out to see the funeral of the late Pope, and then to follow the conclave that took place in the Sistine Chapel on May 7th and 8th, and then the first public events of our new Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, and this, the Mass of Inauguration. The Holy Father making his way on the Popemobile back into St. Peter's Square. Nearly, the square not completely filled to capacity, but it might as well be. There's just enough space for his Popemobile to pass, and the Via della Conciliazione is also filled up completely all the way past the new Piazza Pia that sits at the end of the via, at the end of the street, in front of the Castel Sant'Angelo, and leads straight to the Tiber River. All that area has been filled with the pilgrims who've come out to see the Holy Father in person. And we're here, well, we welcome all of you who are joining us now for the Mass of Inauguration of Pope Leo XIV. And we especially welcome all of those who are joining through our partner broadcast stations here with Vatican Media, Mondovision, AWTN TV, Sirius XM 129, the Catholic channel, Catholic TV, Catholic Faith Network in America, UCTV, Uganda Catholic Television, Madha TV in India, Shalom World Television Networks USA, Atma Darshan TV in India, Shalom TV India and Sunday Shalom, Radio Katipunan in the Philippines, Radio Maria Lithuania, Luminous Radio in India, and Relevant Radio. We also welcome all of you who may be joining us through diocesan radio stations or local radio stations who are picking up this broadcast. We're coming to you live from St. Peter's Square. This is Vatican News, Vatican Media, and we thank all of our partners of the Dicastery for Communication here at the Vatican.
And if you have just joined us, we currently are having these beautiful images of the Holy Father greeting the faithful who have gathered in numbers and thousands here at St. Peter's Square. And shortly after this, we will begin then the Eucharistic celebration. A Eucharistic celebration today charged with many beautiful symbols highlighting the Petrine ministry of Pope Leo XIV. At the beginning of the celebration, for an example, the Pope will go from the altar of confession inside the Basilica. And the altar, we know it's located in the center of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, where Bernini's baldachin stands. So Pope Leo XIV will descend the stairs with the patriarchs of the Eastern churches to the tomb of St. Peter. There he will pause in prayer for a few minutes. The Holy Father will place incense in the thurible and incense the place where the tomb of Peter is. And at the venerated monument that marks the tomb of the Apostle Peter, he will incense that. Of course, we know Peter is the first pope and the rock upon which Christ built his church. So this ritual emphasizes the pontiff's connection with the Apostle Peter and his martyrdom.
Afterwards, the Holy Father will come in procession into St. Peter's Square in front of St. Peter's Basilica. The deacons will take the pallium, the fisherman's ring, the ring of the fisherman, and the book of the Gospels and carry them together in procession. So these symbols of the Petrine ministry, which we'll explore during this liturgy, they precede the Pope, and they are carried with solemnity as a visible expression of the service, spiritual authority, and proclamation of the gospel that the successor of Peter is called to exercise in the universal church. The procession heads towards St. Peter's Square from within the Basilica, and during this journey, the solemn hymn of Laudes Regiae is intoned, a particular form of the litany of saints in which their intercession for the Pope's holiness is requested.
And shortly after that, we will begin then with the sign of the cross, the same way we normally begin the Holy Eucharist. And this will be then the traditional way in which the Pope will begin the Eucharist during the Mass for the inauguration of his pontificate. The Pope will have then the rite of the sprinkling with holy water. Before that, he will bless the water and then will sprinkle the people with holy water. And to sing the Gloria, and the liturgy of the Word will begin shortly after that. And we know that one of the most significant moments of the Eucharist for the inauguration of the pontificate is the proclamation of the Gospel. And it will be proclaimed in two languages, in Greek and in Latin. And this expresses the unity of the Church and underscores the successor of Peter is the Pope of both Latin Catholics and Eastern Catholics.
So, as we know, the Church, as the Second Vatican Council noted, it breathes with two lungs. The Eastern churches, there are 23, I believe, Eastern Catholic rites in communion with Rome, and the Latin Rite Church, what is commonly known as the Roman Catholic Church. And so Greek is the language of the Christian East and the New Testament. It is what the New Testament was written in. And it represents the ancient traditions of the Eastern churches, while Latin, the language of the Roman Rite, evokes the heritage of the Western Church. So by proclaiming the gospel in both languages, we see that Christ's message is intended for all peoples, and that the ministry of the Bishop of Rome encompasses the entire universal church. This is in communion with its diverse liturgical and spiritual traditions. After the reading of the gospel in Latin and Greek, the Holy Father will then silently bless the book of the Gospels. If you're just joining us, the Holy Father has made his way through St. Peter's Square and the Via della Conciliazione aboard the Pope Mobile, greeting the faithful. His first ride to greet the faithful in person as Pope, and now he has made his way into St. Peter's Basilica and is putting on his liturgical vestments before beginning this liturgy at the tomb of St. Peter, his predecessor. We know that the popes are the successors of Peter. We don't say that Pope Leo is the successor of Pope Francis or Pope Benedict XVI or Pope John Paul II before him, but that each is the successor of Peter. They draw in their ministry from that ministry that Jesus entrusted Peter with. You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. And the Pope is the vicar of Christ on earth. We Catholics believe that he represents and speaks for Christ in our regard. During this liturgy, there's two very important symbols that we'll see, the pallium and the ring of the fisherman.
Yeah, we know that during the days leading up to this inauguration mass of his pontificate, Pope Leo XIV has worn his episcopal ring as a cardinal. However, from today, he will not wear that ring, but will receive the fisherman's ring in the rite of initiation of his Petrine ministry. This ring, on which his name is engraved, symbolizes his mission as successor of the Apostle Peter. It was formerly used as a seal to authenticate papal documents.
And it's called the ring of the fisherman, just because Peter, having believed in Jesus' word, drew the nets ashore from the boat in the miraculous catch of fish. Peter was a fisherman. That was his trade before he left everything to follow Jesus.
Pater noster, quis in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra.
Vatican's Office for Liturgical Celebrations of the Supreme Pontiff released an image of the new ring of the fisherman just yesterday on Saturday. If you go to social media or our website, Vatican News, or our Instagram page, you'll find the image of the Pope's ring, the new ring of the fisherman, which is also called the episcopatory ring, from the Latin for fisher. It bears an image of St. Peter, and it has New Testament roots and significance. We hear in the Gospel of Matthew, in chapter 6, verse 19, that St. Peter was given the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And then in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, verse 32, Jesus tells Peter that he must strengthen his brothers in the faith and mission. And so the ring of the fisherman is a visible expression of that mission and Peter's faith. And it symbolizes the duty to which the first pope was entrusted. As Peter is known as the fisherman apostle, it's referred to as the fisherman's ring. And it symbolizes the continuous lineage from the first pope to today. This ring has been a part of the symbols of the papacy since at least the 13th century. It was used previously as a signet ring in sealed official documents that were signed by the Pope until 1842, when that tradition was discontinued. And now it is still used symbolically. But every Pope still has a ring, and we note that each ring of the fisherman is specific to that Pope. It's made new for him. When the Pope dies, his ring of the fisherman, along with the lead seal, is marked with a chisel. Some people say mistakenly, we see the images on the screen of the ring of the fisherman there in St. Peter's Basilica. If you're following us on television, we can see it in a box. And so many people mistakenly write that it is destroyed. Each fisherman's ring and lead seal are destroyed at the end, following the death of the Pope. But that is not true. So what happens, according to the governing document of the sede vacante, the time but in between popes, is the Universi Dominici Gregis, and the evening of the Pope's death, and so on April 21st, after Pope Francis's death, his ring was taken by the Cardinal Camerlengo and the former Cardinal Secretary of State, and they mark it with a chisel, so it's not destroyed. It just receives a mark that makes it symbolizes and shows that it is no longer valid as a affirming a seal for documents. In 2013, Pope Francis received a gold-plated silver ring, which was previously owned by the secretary to Pope Paul VI. And his own predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI, had a gold ring that was engraved with a bas-relief of St. Peter fishing from a boat. And the Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, will now receive his own ring of the fisherman to continue that lineage.
And the ring is presented by one of the cardinals. As we know, the cardinals, they've got 3 orders. There's the cardinal in the order of deacons, and priests, and bishops. And this will be presented to him by Cardinal Tagle, representing Asia. All 3 cardinals, different cardinals, will present a different symbol to the Holy Father, and they're all from different parts of the world, from Europe, from Africa, and from Asia. And the ring will be presented by Cardinal Tagle, and he invokes Christ, the shepherd and bishop of our souls, who builds the church upon the rock of Peter, and whom Peter himself recognized as the Son of the living God, that he may be the one to bestow upon the new pontiff the seal ring of the fisherman. Now the text or the prayer which will be recited there highlights the hope that did not disappoint Peter when he put out into the deep and cast his nets, and recalls that Christ gave him the keys to the kingdom of heaven. It emphasizes that the new pontiff succeeds him in the pastoral leadership of the Church of Rome, which presides in charity, and reaffirms Paul's exhortation that love is the fulfillment of the law. And then the presentation of the ring then will conclude with an invocation of the Holy Spirit, that he may enrich the new pontiff with strength and gentleness in keeping the disciples of Christ united in communion.
And we see in the images on television, we see the tomb of St. Peter, and the ancient mosaic that sits just above it. The other symbol of the Petrine ministry, of the papacy, that Pope Leo will receive is the pallium. And this pallium is a narrow band of white wool that's draped over his shoulders, and there are two dangling black ends at the very point, and one in the front and one in the back, evoking the shape of the letter Y. It's decorated with 6 black silk crosses that are sewn into them, and 3 pins representing the nails of Christ's cross. And receiving the pallium recalls Peter's commission to guide Christ's flock and his uninterrupted succession to the See of Rome. We note that the pallium, the Pope gives the pallium each year to all of the archbishops whom he names throughout the year. And this represents their continuity, their how they represent the Pope in their local dioceses and metropolitan sees.
Lo Spirito Santo scende su Maria e gli apostoli.
And the pallium is conferred upon the Pope by a cardinal of the Order of Deacons, and it will be Cardinal Mamberti. That's the same cardinal who announced Habemus Papam on the 8th of May. So he is the one who will confer the pallium on the shoulders of the Holy Father, who in the formula used refers to Christ, the great shepherd of the sheep, whom God raised from the dead and who now bestows it upon the Pope. It is noted that the pallium was taken from the Confessio of Peter, as Devin has rightly mentioned, and this signifies the connection with the apostle who received from Christ the special mission to shepherd the flock.
Ave Maria, gratia plena.
And so the pallium evokes the image of the Good Shepherd, as Father Bongo was saying, and it recalls Peter's threefold response to the risen Lord